Back in 2022, Spiders announced their next game, Greedfall 2, The Dying World. A prequel to the 2019 original, all we've seen so far is a 1.5-minute long trailer, some cover art, and a few paragraphs of description from the game's website and Steam page. That's sure to change soon, as the game is set for release sometime in 2024. But as we wait for more info, I thought it'd be a good idea to take a look at what we know so far about the game, and speculate about the direction Spiders might be going in with their unique fantasy world. So let's take a look forward to Greedfall 2. As I said, the trailer is short, but it does an effective job of setting the stage for the game. In the original Greedfall, we played as Desarde, a noble from the old continent of Gakane, a region with some heavy European influences, who traveled across the sea to help colonize the newfound land of Tear for D. In Greedfall 2, it's the opposite. We'll be playing as a native of Tear for D who's been taken back to the old continent by members of the Bridge Alliance. I find this role reversal to be an intriguing setup and full of strong narrative possibilities. As we saw in the original Greedfall, the nations and factions of the old continent are a complete mess. The Coin Guard launches a coup. The Bridge Alliance does some pretty terrible things in the name of science, and Tuleme does some pretty terrible things in the name of religion. They all have their positive qualities, but looking back at the game, the negatives are what I remember the most. But because of Desarde's role as a legate, he had to be friends with everyone and act as a peace broker. I can't imagine that a native of Tear for D taken to the old continent would be asked to take on a similar role, so I look forward to the possibility of being a bit more judgmental in this one. But that's just speculation. It's hard to say what type of protagonist we'll be asked to play until we hear more from the team. Speaking of the team, while all they've shown us so far is a reveal trailer, Johanne Rousseau, the CEO of Spiders, did say more in an interview with IGN shortly after the trailer dropped. In the interview, she spoke at length about the fact that the team is heavily inspired by BioWare, developer of classic single-player RPGs like Dragon Age and Mass Effect. These influences were clear to anyone who played the first game, but it's so cool to see a developer cite them like this. She says that Spiders makes BioWare-like games because those are the types of games they want to play. And as someone who was forever changed by his time playing characters like the hero of Ferelden and Commander Shepard, all I can say is hell yeah! It's the type of thing that gets me incredibly excited for this game, much as I felt when I heard about the first Greedfall back in 2018. Speaking of BioWare, the game that Rousseau mentions specifically as a major influence for Greedfall 2 is the first Knights of the Old Republic. Once again, hell yeah! It might be an older entry in BioWare's catalog, but it's absolutely one of their best, and if you ask me, it's probably the best Star Wars story that's come out this century. I take the story of Revan over anything from the prequels or the sequels. So if the next chapter from the Greedfall universe is going to take its cues from Coder, then sign me up. Specifically, one way that Rousseau says Greedfall 2 will take inspiration from Coder is with its combat system. She talks about creating a combat system where the companions operate with a bit more intelligence, one where companions can handle their business during smaller encounters, but where the player will still need to pause for tactical benefit on boss fights and more challenging missions. While we're on the subject, according to Rousseau, the game will feature 7 companions, 2 more than we had in the first installment. She says that they've increased their focus on them for Greedfall 2, hoping that players will feel as though they developed a real relationship with them by the end of the game. All of this is music to my ears. I liked most of the companions from the original Greedfall, but I do have to say that none of them really walked off the screen for me. None of them felt like a true signature character, a figure that could evolve into a franchise trademark, like BioWare has in Morrigan, Varric, and Liara. A recurring, featured star to grace the box art and for fans to identify with. Obviously, creating a character like this is easier said than done, but if they can pull it off, it'd go a long way to cementing Greedfall's place in the hierarchy of fantasy RPGs. Spiders has created a really unique fantasy world with Greedfall, one that bucks traditional trends by setting it during the Age of Discovery, and creating a character that really embodies the representation of that time period, flaws and all, will be the next logical step as Greedfall grows into a full-fledged series. In terms of setting, as mentioned earlier, this game is set to take place on the old continent of Gakane. According to the Steam page, we'll be going to Olima, a city run by the Bridge Alliance, and the shores of Uxantis, which sounds like a mythical location of some kind. The Steam page also teases that we'll be tasked with stopping one man's goal of conquest, which could spell doom for both the old continent and Tier 4D. This would seem to indicate that Greedfall 2 will have a central antagonist right from the beginning. The original game gave us a great twist when Constantine turned out to be the big bad, but having someone to concentrate on right from the get-go sounds really exciting to me. Someone to focus the plot around and point our anger to, like Loghain, Saren, or since we're going all in on the Coda references, Darth Malik. The actual Age of Discovery was full of villains, and if you mix one of those real-life bad guys with some of Spider's inspirations, you could have a really memorable antagonist. So with all that said, when should we expect to hear more about Greedfall 2? Well, with the Game Awards just a few days away, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we got another trailer at the big ceremony. I don't know anything more than you do, so don't take my word for that. But I think there's a really good chance we'll see something then. But either way, with the game set for release in 2024, I'm sure more news isn't far away. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and consider supporting me with a YouTube channel membership or over on Patreon. See you guys next time.